Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Michael Crow. Hi, Michael.
Patty, nice to see you again.
Very nice to see you. We're going to have a great episode full of a lot of information about scaling a business, growing a business, preparing for exit, exiting a business, because that's your area of expertise. And you definitely know what you're talking about. And I'm going to read your bio. Not write your bio, read your bio. I can write it as well, but I'm going to read it. But first of all, I'd like to give a big shout out to Noah Rosenfarb, who introduced us. And Noah, who is the founder, owner of Freedom Family Office, so freedomfamilyoffice.com. I'm going to include the wonderful interview that I've done with Noah in the show notes. And we had a great conversation about how to achieve freedom in terms of the wealth and finances and a lot of other very useful information. So definitely thank you, Noah, for the connection. And thank you also for being a guest on the podcast. And our listeners, check it out. So Michael, now about you. So you are the owner and founder of 12 businesses for over 500 million. And you are an expert in building wealth through building small businesses into larger ones, both through acquisitions, startups, and franchise development.
That sounds good.
It sounds very, very good. So let's start from the beginning. How did you get started as an entrepreneur?
Well, like a lot of us, I started in the corporate world. So coming out of college, I didn't really look at entrepreneurship as the path I would take, and ended up working for one of the biggest consulting firms, and then ended up at one of the biggest banks. And after a 12-year corporate run that was pretty successful up until we merged with Bank of America in a 50-50 deal, and all of a sudden I was out of a job instead of running the whole thing, which I thought I was going to do. So I was, I was an entrepreneur because I didn't want to go through that again, and that's been a good run since then. Plenty of hard work. Not everything always goes as planned, but it's been a good run.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that, like the morning or the day you found out, okay, I thought I will have a great job, but I don't have a job anymore.
Well,
It was probably not one of the highest points of your life.
No, but it was humbling because I at that point I had worked overseas. I had done some very significant things at a young age for the organizations, and was on the management committee at 31. So I was thinking everything was great. Didn't think there's any real issues with, my someday in the near future, assuming the CEO role and all that kind of thing. And when I was told otherwise in this merger, it was thinking that I walked out the door and I said, well, that's not going to be a big deal. I talked to everybody anyway. I'll buy this company. I'll do this. I'll do that. And nobody returned my call. And it took me a couple weeks to figure out that they were listening to me because of the office I had, not because of who I was. So it was like, okay, you're going to have to go reestablish yourself all over again with people, and that's what I took the good part of a year and did. And thankfully, I had some people that backed me early on, and I was able to start going out and acquiring companies and starting to execute the plan.
So what's the first thing that you did? Like, what's the first company that you acquired?
Well, the first thing I did is because I didn't have enough money to make this work, is I went out and I sold 20% of my firm, which had nothing in it other than me, for $1 million. And I had to explain to him why I thought it was worth, $5 million at the time for 20%, which was a pretty good sales job because I'm not sure it was. But it did work out well for them and me, and we did well. So we started off. I bought a retail natural food business, which was at the time the same size as Whole Foods. That they obviously did a little bit better, and although I did fine, and started to acquire different small companies that I thought had the opportunity to grow into that, and some did better than others. But the thesis was always the same, which is to pay a modest amount, get in there and help them work and scale, and try to bring some best practices into what had traditionally been a business run by folks that had come up through the trades or something, and maybe they didn't have the same corporate or educational structure to what they did, but they were good at what they did. But I thought that to grow the business to another level was going to take some additional things.
So what are some of the things that you observe that actually take to get the business to the next level?
Yeah, we have this joke because I'm currently still acquiring plumbing companies and moving forward. And I said sometimes I run it. First thing I do is go in the office and unplug the fax machine, right? So that's kind of one of our running jokes about, if you still have a fax machine, you're probably not doing all the things you need to do today. Uh, so, and fast forwarding to today, we're very focused on buying companies in the marketing and the leads that go with that to drive the business. Not many owners have kept up with the ever-changing rules and structure that Google and Meta have imposed on all of us to go get leads for businesses. Um, Whether you're B2B, B2C, you're still playing in their sandbox, and it's their toys and their rules. So it's important, and it's one of the main drivers of buying a small business and thinking that we can grow it by adding that expertise into the mix and acquiring new customers.
Okay, so it's basically having, like, staying on top of mind, not top of mind, but top of the line in terms of the technology, in terms of innovation, in terms of like where things are at. If you know that, then you can actually have an impact and make a change.
Yes, yeah. Generally speaking, most of the businesses that are successful and are smaller and have been around, so they've already got what we would call product market fit, right? So that's what you're buying if you're buying something as opposed to starting it. And the next question is, well, how do we scale this business?
Right.
And so we scaled the business by understanding the unit economics, how the money's made, where the costs are, if we can address any of that. And generally, we're looking to grow the business and to try to improve the gross margin while we do that. So that takes a lot of different forms, and it can go depending on the type of business, manufacturing versus a online business versus a professional services. They're all different, but they all have to go acquire customers and grow. They all have to watch their economics. And so we centralize some things like accounting and payroll, but we try to run them very decentralized with people that are motivated and experienced and have the right incentives, so that as we grow, they grow, we all participate together, and hopefully go on and achieve something significant.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's why we play the game.
That's right. Absolutely. So, the game right now. So what's the game right now? Let's talk about your current game.
The current game is having spent some time trying to figure out where the AI ball is going to bounce next and where it's going to go, which is on top of mind for everyone. Um, I'm trying to turn that around a little bit by reverse engineering and say, where in 5 or 10 years will it have impacted it, but not impacted it? So we're very focused on trade businesses, plumbing, HVAC, and others, where it's helpful to have AI helping to diagnose, but it doesn't replace the tech in the field. And if anything, there's a shortage of folks out there that are in those businesses and those trades. So doing a lot in that, and I'm pretty excited about that. Recently, just did a deal in Massachusetts to acquire a plumbing company. Have another one for HVAC in New York right now. Tend to be smaller, but we have the platform that we put it into, and therefore we can scale using that platform.
So tell me about the platform. What is that platform?
Yeah, there's a choice that I have to go through and make in each of these businesses, and I've done it both ways. I don't think it's easy to put in all the systems. The things that you do for a living are actually very difficult, uh, and can take a lot of time and can disrupt a small business. So I prefer to either buy a larger business that has that in place. Those are hard and they're very competitive nowadays. So what I've been doing is buying a small business and putting it in with a franchise system that's already got the systems and all the structure in place. Allows me to scale it faster, buying multiple territories or small acquisitions. So doing lots of small deals as opposed to one big deal, knowing that I've got a franchise partner that's already worked out all those things, and we're going to plug it in and more than offset the royalty we're paying them back.
Interesting. So you basically buy smaller companies in the trade and you make them plug them into the franchise model.
hmm So equivalent, as I've given this example of saying, if I was to go out and buy a $10 million plumbing business, it'd be very competitive. They may or may not have the right systems. They might have just done a good job for 30 years and be where they're at. If I buy five $2 million businesses and pay much less for that, and I already have the systems in there, and I'm just bolting them in, they're actually easier to do in some ways because you have less layers of management and some infrastructure and inertia that in a $10 million business, it's hard to make changes sometimes. In a $2 million business, you've got maybe six people, and it's easier to talk to six people than 60. And when you're trying to make those changes.
Right. So what happened to those businesses after you buy them?
Well, hopefully they do well. That's our goal. Doesn't always start off. There's always, as I like to say, there's the 30-day surprise bucket. So in the first 30 days, you're going to get surprised by lots of things that you didn't get in due diligence. Everybody walks up to you after you close and say, "I really wanted to tell you about this." You could have told me before we closed, but obviously their loyalties are with the previous owner. So we always uncover things. A lot of times you're not allowed to talk to the customers until you close. You find out that they're getting ready to move or go somewhere else, and you have to kind of save that business. So those first 30 days are very critical to kind of find out all the things you don't know, and then you can address them. It's really hard to address problems if you don't know what the problem is.
Right. That's very true.
So
So you identify,
I,
and definitely after the first 30 days, you identify those problems and then you start solving it.
yes, as I
Then
said, everybody, the key to success for me and someone in my position and what we're trying to do is the first 30 to 90 days, our listen talk ratio needs to be about 90-10. We need to be listening all the time, asking the right questions and listening, not walking in with a lot of predetermined structures or processes that we're going to put in. And then the real art form for me is to try to listen to them and identify what challenges they're having, whether it's operational or customers or pricing or whatever, and then have them become part of the solution too, and make ownership part of what they have when we're done with that. So they were part of developing that. That's the ultimate goal. It doesn't always work. Sometimes people will be resistant no matter what. But surprisingly, you get a lot of superstars coming out of that process. They'll come up with some things that are brilliant. They'll come up with things that just show that they've been thinking about it and they think like owners. And that's fundamentally what in the businesses that I've got and what I try to preach around this is if everyone acts like an owner and is treated like that, it's going to be a great culture and a great company that's going to scale very well.
I agree. And you're writing a book right now.
Mm. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but as you said, it's hard work. It's hard work
It
to be an
is.
entrepreneur, to be successful, and
Yeah.
absolutely. So tell us about the book.
Well, it's still in process. We're about halfway through it. It's all
And
about
this is an evergreen podcast, so people can hear
yeah,
it 3 years from now when we are recording, and the book will be a
okay.
bestseller. So
I hope it helps some people. That is the goal. And it is It is centered around my experience in a bit of a process and structure that I have formulated, which I call search. And it's all about what is the right way to go get the business buyer fit and analysis around buying the right business for you, and then making sure that you get the big things right around that, and focusing on the key things, not everything. And I think that that's a real problem for a lot of people, is that they're either so analytical that they can't make a decision. And we live in a world in entrepreneurial land here that you never have all the information, or it's never in front of you. You have to be willing to make decisions in the face of imperfect or lack of
Missing
some
or
key
partial
information.
information. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. And you just have to, like I say, life is a test, and you have to treat business like that. And we have to keep adjusting and moving, and ultimately you get there. But it's a lot of work and a lot of perseverance that'll kind of drive it through.
Absolutely. So tell us about that process that you're talking about in the book that you will
Oh yeah.
the book.
So the book is really geared at somebody in the 45 and up, where they're coming out of a corporate path. Maybe their kids are now in college. They've got that ability, and they're looking at retirement and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to get there," or "My job is looking pretty, shaky right now." And I think that's a reality of more people, and that's where I do think AI is going to play a bigger role than people are talking about in some knowledge worker levels. It's the first time the productivity tool is going to come in and really go after a lot of the white collar work that we've all been doing, or have come into it. And I think that if folks look at ownership of a small business, whether it's partial or full, or there's different forms of doing that, and the returns that come from that, and the security that comes from owning something as opposed to working for somebody else. Yes, there's some drawbacks and some challenges, but I think it's clear to me that it far outweighs the challenges and costs, and that's what I'm trying to help people follow that path and come to that realization and do their own self-assessment. There's a lot of tools in there about how to honestly look at your own skills and networks and your own resources, and go find the right business that fits that particular set of things you have.
So I'm curious about that process. Can you walk us through that process that you recommend in order for somebody's listening to us right now and they go, well, I want to
Mhm.
know how I can do it. What's the process? What are the steps?
Yeah, it starts off with a lot of assessment of yourself and the environment that you're in. And in the book, I'm coming up with, and I have a quantitative way to do some of that. So it's a little hard to do that over a podcast, but I can show you that, for a lot of things, are you more on the sales side, or are you more on the operational side? Most people are not both. Most people go to one extreme or the other. And those kinds of analysis tools and the results of that are applied to the kind of business you go out and buy. So if you like to do sales, then pick a job where you've got somebody to run operations, and you can go out and do a lot of the sales. Or if you're really hands-on and you want to do everything, then maybe you need to be in a trades business or something where you can really be in the field a lot with your team. So it's that applied with understanding where businesses are going to be in 5 and 10 years, and trying to get that right. Because if you get it wrong, you don't want to be the last one with a blockbuster, retail store in the corner. There's
Hmm.
not a lot of VHS tapes being rented anymore, and you might be the best at it, but you might really like it, but it's not going to work out very well. So I think there's some tools that I'm talking about in the book that will help people try to get those bigger things right, in using their everyday experience and their knowledge and their business of, maybe they're coming out of a corporate job, or they're in a corporate job that they've got some skills and they see some things going on, and they can apply that to a business that will take advantage of some of that.
That's beautiful. That's really wonderful.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So our listeners are listening right now and go, okay, should I reach out to Michael? Like, what are the criteria? Who should reach out to you? What are the requisites to so you can help?
But I'd like to help everybody. Like everyone, we want to do some good out there and work with great people, and really anybody can reach out and find me on LinkedIn and websites and things. I started a business brokerage advisory firm, and I'm recruiting a lot of real estate agents to learn how to be business advisors because I think that's a great field for them to move into. So we have a lot of advisors that can help, and then we're, as you know, developing coaches and people we can work with to kind of help coach businesses. So we can. The goal is to be able to help everybody in this space of small business land, buyers and sellers. And it takes a conversation. I mean, it's like this. You just have to sit down and start talking and see where you can add value. Because I'm a big believer that if you can't add value, then you really shouldn't be doing business with the other side. And that's kind of how things are priced and how that is. And we want to add a lot of value. So somebody comes in and wants to buy a business, we want to make sure we can really help them. And if they want to do a sale, then we can help them get their business sold for the best price and the best process.
That's right. And we're definitely going to include in the show notes all of your contact information so people can
Thank you.
contact you. Absolutely. Michael, what is the importance of having good business processes and systems? How does it help make the business more valuable in terms of selling?
Yeah, I love that question. And it's something that I think it's overlooked a lot because one of the primary questions that a buyer will ask when looking at a business to buy, let's say we're representing someone for sale, they want to know is the minute I come into that business, is everything running the same way and is it scalable or not? And if we can demonstrate that with standard operating procedures, flow charts, workflows, and various other metrics, it really helps out. And you get more money and you get a smoother process out of it. And it also allows the owner to step out of the business a little bit. It's kind of that, if can you take a 2-week vacation from your business and it still runs well without you, you're going to get more for your business if you can. If you have to be there on the phone all the time and do all these things, people are going to pick up on that when you're going through the due diligence process, and it's going to a lot of people are going to back out of the deal because they're going to not be looking to buy themselves a job, they're trying to buy a business. And that's the big distinction that I think a lot of business owners don't know is if you don't develop processes and procedures, you're basically performing every function, right?
That's
Because
very
you're making
true.
every decision.
Or you're relying on maybe on a key employee that is doing that, but then,
Exactly.
yeah, it's a
And
risk.
that becomes the risk that the new buyer has to assume. Will that key employee stay and do the same job that they have been doing? So from a buyer's standpoint, they want to see that everyone's replaceable. There's no customer concentration, that you have procedures and processes in there that anybody could follow. And if you invest the time and effort into doing that well, it will pay off on the sale very, very much.
Absolutely. Is there a way you can quantify it from your experience? What have you seen in terms of how much would it pay off?
It's hard to put it into attribution of solely one thing. For example, it's very closely related to how much the owner's involved in the business, if they have procedures or not. So if the ones that tend not to be involved in the business tend to have better procedures. So those two things together, when you add that together, it's about 10% on average difference in price. So if you're selling a business for $5 million, you're going to get an extra $500,000 on average, sometimes a lot more than that. Like if someone looks at your business and says, you've done a great job, you're small, but I can put money into this and I can take this small business with these systems and make this 10 times the size, you're going to get a much higher multiple for that because of what you did.
Right. And you can also negotiate a higher price.
Exactly. At least 10%, and sometimes much more.
Yeah, I mean, I had a client that basically got 2x, I mean, twice as much as he thought he would get because
Hmm.
it's well-documented processes and procedures, because it was a turnkey operation. I mean, that's basically what you're doing with your franchises, with the businesses you buy, you plug them into your
Exactly.
franchise because you have a system. So if you actually prepare your business for sale, we talked about a little bit before the podcast on what are the actions that need to be done in order to prepare your business for sale. But as you pointed out, it's not necessarily, the question is not how to prepare your business for sale, is how to scale your business. So if it's
Yes.
scale, if the business is scalable, or you are able to scale the business, then it will be more ready for selling.
Very much. That's well said.
Yeah. How much enough, like when is enough in terms of if an owner, an entrepreneur looking at their business and we're going, okay, well, I have to scale, but in order to sell, is that always true? Or what is the rule here, rule of thumb, that when do you actually have to do some actions in order to scale? When can you just put it on the market?
You can always put the business on the market. It's just a question of the number of buyers you'll attract and the price you'll get and how long it'll take. So if you do this kind of work up front, it goes a little smoother. But there are a lot of reasons that people need to sell quickly or want to sell quickly. And then oftentimes, and this happened to me in commercial real estate, where you hang on saying I'm going to improve something, but then the market turns against you even further. And that can happen in a small business context where you might be affected by tariffs that come out of nowhere or something that you didn't see coming. So, oftentimes if you're thinking of selling and you think you can get a little bit more out of it, I'd recommend actually taking it to market, because maybe you'll get that today and let the next person put in their own version of doing it, right? Not too different than your own home, where, so should I remodel all my home and paint the colors that I like? Well, maybe somebody doesn't like those colors and they're going to do it themselves. So you're kind of wasting money. So it takes an advisor or a person that knows, the system, like yourself, that can kind of, talk about these are the things that will add value. And as you said something earlier that I really liked is, you should always be thinking of scaling your business. It's something that even if you choose not to, you should have it ready to do that if the opportunity arises. It's good for your people. It's good for everybody in your world to grow and provide opportunities. And I think as an owner, you have to take that seriously.
Absolutely. It's the analogy. I like the analogy of selling the house. So some people wait until they sell the house in order to renovate, and they look at it and go like, why didn't we just do it 10 years ago and actually enjoy it? So
Yeah,
always live as if though you are, get the maximum out of the business. Like you would get the maximum out of your house, get the maximum out of your business, scale, enjoy it, grow it. And then you will be really ready to get the price that you want for it at the right time.
exactly. Yeah. Uh, there's no perfect time to sell, and there's no price that you're going to be guaranteed. This is all probabilities and a lot of hard work along the way. So I recommend that you start talking to an advisor and somebody early, and you start thinking about it. Get a valuation now. Understand what your starting point is, so you know what your improvement's going to be. Do you want to invest the money and the time to get it to the next level and get that other price, or do you want to just sell it and do something different? That's a perfectly acceptable rationale. And oftentimes, 5, 10 years might be enough in one business, and it's time to either retire or buy another one or do something different. All great reasons to think about selling.
Those are great reasons, actually. And it's also probably starts with that, with your why of why do you want to sell?
Yep,
Not
the
to
why is
escape from
important.
something, right? I mean, you have to, because then you have to know what you're going to do after. Or even if you don't know, if you have some idea, you have to develop those ideas in order to figure it out. So you have something to look forward to.
Yeah, I like the concept, and I've done this in my world of reverse engineering. So if you don't know exactly what to do now, reverse engineer it back, know where you're trying to go, and then think about what you have to do to get there. And that's a good way to look at things sometimes, is to understand where you want to be in 5 or 10 years, and what are the things I should be doing today to get there, and then break it down into those steps.
That's actually a very good exercise. You really look at that, you break it down into steps. If it is business ownership, or if you want to sell your business, you want to buy a new business. Okay,
Hmm.
what are the steps that you need to do in order to start scaling your business now in order for you to get the price that you really want? And and scaling the business can be very simple in terms of the organization part of it. It's really understanding who is working for you, what are the responsibilities of each person, making sure that those responsibilities are documented, are agreed upon, that your processes are developed, optimized, because you do want to optimize. That's how you're going to scale, especially in today's world. Like you said, with AI, you can ignore it, you can use it, You can harness
Right.
its power and use it for your own benefit. And you're still the driver, but it has to be used. And that's where optimization comes in. Make sure everybody knows that you have good people under you. That's very important. And extract yourself out of the business. Take the 2-week vacation. Like, decide that you're going to take 2 weeks off the grid, come back and see what happens.
Exactly. That's perhaps a little scary for some, but it's a good lesson to learn and to see and and look at the bright side of it, because oftentimes people will step up and really surprise you in a positive way, and you'll come back and maybe they did some things that you didn't thought of, or they didn't feel they were empowered to do, and perhaps the business is going to run better without you, which is not a negative, it's a positive. It's then go
Absolutely a
on and
positive.
grow it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the only way you're going to figure it out, for sure. Well, Michael, it's been a pleasure having you here as a podcast. Great conversation.
Thank
And again,
you.
we're
I
gonna,
enjoyed it.
yeah, you're very welcome, and we'll include your information. So business owners, entrepreneurs that are listening to us right now will reach out and find out where are they on that cycle. I mean, maybe they want to sell the business, they want you to buy their business, so maybe they want to help in terms of business brokerage to sell the business in the future. Wherever phase you're at, maybe they want to buy a business. Who knows? Definitely reach out to Michael. It's very obvious you have the knowledge and the expertise, and you can help. So thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.